All right, let's jump into another deep dive.
Sounds good.
This time, we're taking a trip to a pretty wild world, Canticle, in Brandon Sandersons' The Sunlit Man.
Ah, this is a good
You
one.
guys sent us some excerpts, and I gotta say, Sanderson, he really outdoes himself with this one. We've got a constantly moving sun,
Yeah.
mobile cities, crystallized souls. I mean, it's like he threw every crazy idea he had into a blender, and out popped Canticle.
It is wild, but it all works together so well. And that's one of the things that makes Sanderson so great, right? He can create these incredibly complex worlds that feel totally believable.
Absolutely. And one of the things that struck me right away was how he uses the environment to shape the Threnodite society. They live on a planet where the sun is like this giant destructive force, constantly melting everything in its path.
Right. It's not just a source of light and warmth like we're used to.
No, it's like this constant looming threat that they have to outrun every single day.
Yeah, imagine living with that kind of fear, that constant pressure to stay ahead of the sun. It's no wonder their society has developed in such a unique way.
Their naming conventions, for
Yeah.
example. I mean, names like divinity, elegy, contemplation. You don't exactly hear those every day.
That's almost poetic, isn't it? Like they're trying to find beauty and meaning in the face of all that destruction.
Yeah, it's like the very names are a form of resistance. But let's talk about the Sun Hearts for a minute. Crystallized souls powering their ships. That's a pretty intense energy source.
It really is. And it ties into the bigger picture of the Cosmere, right? We know investiture works differently on different planets. On Scadril, it's all about metals. But on Canticle, they're harnessing the energy of souls. It makes you think about the ethical implications.
It definitely does, especially when you consider the Cinder King. This guy basically uses the Sun Hearts and this idea of the chorus, their ancestral spirits, to justify his tyrannical rule.
Right. He's twisted their beliefs to maintain his grip on power. And then you've got those terrifying Chard enforcers, Threnodites, who are basically infused with burning embers.
Talk about a nightmare. It's a stark contrast to how they used to be, historically peaceful and all.
It shows how even the most peaceful societies can be corrupted by power. The Cinder King's reign is a cautionary tale, really.
So we've got this incredibly harsh world, this society struggling under a dictator, and then enter Nomad, the Sunlit Man himself.
Ah, yes. Nomad, or should we say Zellion.
Right. We eventually learn his real name is Zellion, but for now, let's stick with Nomad. He crashes onto Canticle and immediately stands out. I mean, this guy can withstand the sun's heat. He's got these incredible powers.
So he can teleport, he can heal incredibly fast, he's super strong.
And he can't harm anyone. What's up with that?
That's the big mystery, right? He's got this torment, a scar on his soul that prevents him from fighting back. It creates this fascinating conflict. He wants to help the Threnodites, but he can't bring himself to use violence.
It's like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Or, well, maybe the weight of his past.
The excerpts we read definitely hint at some kind of traumatic event, something that gave him these powers but also took something away from him.
Makes you wonder what exactly happened, right? And how it ties into the Dawn Shards.
Oh yeah, the Dawn Shards. Those things are like the ultimate mystery box in the Cosmere.
They're like these ancient forces that shaped reality as we know it. And if Nomad has had an encounter with one of them, well, that would explain a lot.
It would explain his powers, his limitations, maybe even his arrival on Canticle. Sanderson loves to sprinkle those Cosmere connections everywhere.
Okay, so we've got a scorching planet, a tyrannical ruler, a mysterious hero with a troubled past, and the Dawn Shards lurking in the background. Where did the Threnodites fit into all of this?
They're trying to survive, to find a way to break free from the Cinder King's control, and they're clinging to this hope of finding the Refuge of Stone, a mythical safe haven untouched by the sun.
This Refuge of Stone, it's like their promised land, a symbol of everything they long for: peace, security, a life free from fear.
And then they find a Scadrian access key, a piece of technology from another world, and it throws everything into a whole new light.
Wait, Scadrial, as in the world with Elomancy and those crazy metal mines?
The one and only. Now, what could a Scadrian artifact be doing on Canticle? That's the question.
Right. And Nomad seems to recognize it, so there's definitely a connection there. I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. This is getting good.
It's about to get even better.
Yeah.
Buckle up, because in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how Nomad uses his unique skills to help the Threnodites, the arrival of the Scadrians, and the twists and turns that lead to a truly epic showdown.
Can't wait. This is one deep dive you won't want to miss.
Definitely not.
See you in part 2.
See ya then.
Last time, we left off with a pretty big cliffhanger.
Yeah, a Scadrian access key.
Exactly. What's it doing on Canticle? And what does it mean for the Threnidites and their search for this refuge of stone?
Well, it definitely suggests that the refuge might not be just a myth.
Right. It could be a real place, maybe even on another planet.
Exactly. And the fact that Nomad seems to recognize the Scadrian technology adds another layer to the mystery.
Totally. It's like Sanderson's dropping these breadcrumbs, hinting at Nomad's past and how it might tie into all of this.
Oh, absolutely. Sanderson's a master at weaving those connections throughout the Cosmere.
But before we get too deep into Cosmere conspiracy theories, let's talk about Nomad's role in all of this.
Yeah.
He can't fight, so how does he actually help the Threnidites?
That's what makes Nomad such an interesting character. He's not your typical action hero.
Right. He's more like a Cosmere MacGyver. He's got to use his brain to figure things out.
Exactly. He has to be resourceful, inventive, and that's where his understanding of investiture comes in.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's got a deep understanding of how investiture works, how it interacts with the natural world.
And on Canticle, that understanding is crucial. He realizes that the planet's crazy rotation and that intense solar heat, they actually create a kind of balance, a way for life to exist.
So he's not just fighting against the environment. He's trying to work with it.
That's the key. He sees the potential in Canticle, even amidst all the chaos and destruction.
And that leads to one of the most exciting parts of the story, the development of new engine technology.
Oh yeah, those engines, they're a game changer for the Threnidites.
Because it means they can finally control their movement, right? They're not
Yeah.
just constantly running from the sun anymore.
Exactly. They can go higher, explore new areas, maybe even find places where the Cinder King's influence doesn't reach.
Talk about a power shift. It's like they're finally taking control of their own destiny.
It's a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always the possibility of progress.
And it's all thanks to Nomad's ingenuity. He's not just helping them survive, he's empowering them to thrive.
He's a different kind of hero, but no less impactful. And speaking of heroes, what about Rebecca and Elegy? They go through some pretty intense stuff in this story.
Oh man, those two. They really embody the resilience of the Threnidites.
Rebecca especially. She steps up as a leader, especially after the loss of her sister.
That scene where she takes charge, it's so powerful. You can really feel her determination, her strength.
And then there's Elegy. Her story is, well, it's heartbreaking.
Being captured by the Cinder King, forced to become one of his charred enforcers.
It's a reminder of how cruel and manipulative the Cinder King is. He doesn't just control their bodies, he tries to control their minds.
But Elegy, she doesn't give up. Even when she's at her lowest point, there's still a spark of defiance in her.
And that spark eventually leads to a truly heroic act of sacrifice.
It's a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, there's always hope for redemption.
Hope and love. Elegy's story shows us that even the most broken hearts can find a way to heal and to help others.
So we've got these incredible characters, this amazing world, and all these mysteries swirling around. And then, just when you think things can't get any crazier, the Scadrians show up.
Oh yeah, the Scadrians. Talk about a game changer.
At first, it seems like they might be the answer to the Threnidites' prayers, right? Offering them safety, a way out.
They play the part of benevolent saviors perfectly.
But it all turns out to be a lie, a cruel trick.
The Refuge of Stone isn't a sanctuary, it's a Scadrian research facility.
And they're not there to help the Threnidites. They're there to exploit them.
It's a classic bait and switch, and it puts Nomad in a really tough spot.
Because now he has to choose between his pacifism and the well-being of the Threnidites.
It's a choice that could have repercussions far beyond Canticle. Remember, the Scadrians are known for their ambition, their technological prowess. If they get their hands on Canticle's resources, who knows what they could do?
This is where things start to get really intense. It's not just about Nomad's personal struggle anymore. It's about the fate of Canticle, maybe even the entire Cosmere.
The stakes have never been higher. And in the final part of our deep dive, we'll see how it all plays out. Get ready for an epic confrontation, a shocking betrayal, and a revelation that changes everything we thought we knew about the Sunlit Man.
Oh, I can't wait to see how this ends. Okay, so where do we even begin after that last cliffhanger?
I know, right? The Scadrians. Revealing their true colors like that. It's a gut punch.
It really is. I mean, luring the Threnidites into that chamber, pretending to offer them safety, and then...
Weaponizing the sunlight.
Oh, yeah, it's just brutal.
It really highlights the dark side of Scadrian ambition. They're so focused on progress, on acquiring knowledge and power, that they completely disregard the consequences, the human cost.
It's like they see the Threnidites as nothing more than resources to be exploited. But what about Nomad? Where does he fit into all of this? Last we saw him, he was still trying to figure out what the Scadrians were up to.
Right. And when he realizes what's happened, when he sees the aftermath of their betrayal,
Oh, man.
that's when something shifts in him.
You can almost feel the weight of that realization, right?
Mm.
The guilt, the anger.
The sheer horror of it all. He's been trying so hard to avoid violence, to stick to his principles,
But now he's faced with the consequences of that inaction.
and those consequences are devastating.
So what happens? Does he finally snap?
It's not so much a snap as a transformation.
Okay, I like that. A transformation.
We don't see the exact moment he decides to fight back, but the next time we encounter him, it's clear that something has changed.
How so?
He's armed.
Oh, wow. Really?
And not just with any weapon. He's got a Scadrian sword.
Whoa. Okay, that's a pretty big statement.
It is. He's taking their technology, their symbol of power, and turning it against them. And he's also wielding a sun heart.
The very thing the Scadrians are trying to control.
Exactly. He's embracing the power that they fear, the power that they want to exploit.
I love it. It's like he's finally shedding those self-imposed limitations
Yeah.
and becoming the hero he was always meant to be.
But it's not a simple black and white situation. He's still grappling with the Dawn Shard's influence. With the consequences of using violence, this isn't just about revenge, it's about protecting the Threnodites, about fighting for something bigger than himself.
It's about standing up for what's right, even if it means breaking your own rules.
And that all leads to the final battle. Nomad versus the Cinder King, Nomad versus the Scadrians. It's an epic showdown, a clash of ideologies and powers.
So who wins?
Well, Nomad, obviously. He's the main character after all.
Right, of course.
But it's not a clean victory. There are sacrifices, losses. It's a reminder that even in the face of triumph, there's always a cost.
And speaking of sacrifices, what about Elegy?
Her sacrifice plays a crucial role in the final battle. It's her act of defiance, her refusal to be controlled, that weakens the Cinder King and allows Nomad to strike the final blow.
It's like her spirit lives on, even in death, inspiring others to fight for freedom.
Exactly. Her story is a powerful reminder that even the smallest acts of resistance can have a ripple effect, can change the course of history.
So, the Cinder King is defeated, the Scadrians are driven back, but what about the Threnodites? What happens to them?
That's where things get really interesting. In the midst of all the chaos, Nomad makes a crucial discovery.
Oh, what is it?
He figures out that sun hearts, they can be recharged.
What, really?
Yeah, using a specific prayer and the sun's heat, they can restore a sun heart's energy.
Wow, that changes everything.
It does. It means the Threnodites are no longer limited by a finite supply of sun hearts. They have a renewable source of energy, a way to power their cities, their technology, their future.
That's incredible. It's like the sun, the very thing they've always feared, becomes their salvation.
It's a beautiful irony, isn't it? The power that threatened to destroy them becomes the key to their survival.
It's a perfect example of Sanderson's ability to subvert expectations, to find hope in the most unexpected places.
And it leaves the Threnodites with a sense of optimism, a belief that they can build a better future for themselves.
But what about Nomad? He's the one who helped them get to this point, but
Yeah.
he doesn't stay, does he?
No. He chooses to leave Canticle.
Why?
That's the bittersweet part of the ending. He's given them the tools they need, but his own journey isn't over. He's still searching for answers, still haunted by his past.
I guess even heroes have their own struggles, their own paths to follow.
Exactly. And Nomad's path leads him away from Canticle, back into the wider Cosmere.
It's a bit sad, but also hopeful, right? He's leaving them with a legacy of hope, a chance to create their own destiny.
And who knows, maybe our paths will cross with Nomads again in another part of the Cosmere.
That's the beauty of Sanderson's work. Everything is connected. Every story is part of a larger tapestry.
And the Sunlit Man, even though it's a shorter story, it adds so much depth and richness to that tapestry.
It makes you think about the nature of heroism, the cost of progress, the power of hope, and the interconnectedness of everything in the Cosmere.
It's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
Well said. Well, this deep dive into the Sunlit Man has been quite a journey. From a scorching desert planet to a Scadrian conspiracy to a hero's transformation, we've covered a lot of ground.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. But as always, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the Sunlit Man? What surprised you? What questions do you still have? Let us know in the comments, and maybe we'll explore them in a future deep dive.
Until then, keep exploring the Cosmere.
And keep those theories coming.
You know we love them.
See you next time.
See ya.